Hey YouTube! Welcome to the ins and outs of two-wheel drive to four-wheel drive video. Now, in the interest of people who have clicked on this video just to get the information, I'm not going to go into too much beforehand, but we will get into stuff afterhand if you want to stay. And for my regular viewers, this is my 1993 Jeep Cherokee. It's a 4-liter, it's an AX15. It started life as a two-wheel drive. It is now a four-wheel drive, and I'm going to show you the ins and outs of how to do that. Okay, so now we have our Jeep up in the air so we can take a closer look at all the parts that are for the four-wheel drive system. Obviously, the main pieces you'll need is your front axle and your transmission transfer case combo. The reason why you'll need a combo is that the actual two-wheel drive transmissions, the output shaft is too short to accommodate the transfer case. So these combinations is what you'll need, unless you want to go to a transmission shop, get a new output shaft, have it put into your old transmission, and then put the transfer case on. That's one way to do it. I prefer just getting a whole combo. The easiest way to do this is really with a donor vehicle, but I'm going to go through each individual part for those of you who want to know. Now, so you'll need the combination. The XJ and MJ, the actual transfer case clocking, the position of the transfer case is different than a Wrangler. If you have one from a Wrangler, a transmission transfer case combination, you try to put it in here, you're going to run into problems with it rubbing up here. Ask me how I know. So you'll need a XJ MJ combination. You can clock them if you want to take the transfer case off and drill new holes and move it and all that kind of thing. It's doable. But it's easier to just get a combination, especially if your vehicle's automatic. There's so many of those things in junkyards that you can just pop one out, pop one in. It's pretty easy. The transmission course or transmission mount is the same for two-wheel drive and four-wheel drive, so you don't have to worry about that. You can use your old one, no problem. Now, when it comes to the axles, you're gonna really want to get them in a pair if you can. But if you can't, that's no big thing. Mine I didn't get as a pair. That's the original axle, and then I just got a front one. When you do that, you will have to most likely re-gear your new axle. Now, most commonly, the two-wheel drive Jeeps have 307 gears. Pretty good for highway, pretty bad for everything else. So you can re-gear them. That's what I did. But if you get a combination, they'll just go together and it'll be fine. No big thing. The front axles are mounted to the Jeep in the same way as the two-wheel drives, by your upper control arm, lower control arm on both sides. Those are how the axle is actually bolted to the car, and they're the same. It's universal fit. So that part of it's easy. You just bolt it right up. Now you have all this other stuff bolted to it, right? So there's a few things that can be saved and moved over, and there's a few things that can't. Realistically, I recommend actually just replacing everything with new stuff while you're in here. It just makes sense. But I understand that some people are on a budget, and I admire that. The springs, the two-wheel drive springs and four-wheel drive springs seem to be the same from what I can tell. I can't find a discernible difference between the two. Those are 4x4 springs, but I really didn't see any difference. Starting up, now we're going to go into the actual components that make the steering happen, and you know, that kind of jig stuff. So starting up at the top, you have your pitman arm, same. Two-wheel drive, four-wheel drive, same. Drag link ends, and steering stabilizer under there is all the same stuff, two-wheel drive and four-wheel drive. So you can use all of that section, no problem. Where things start to get a little bit different is your tie rod, ends and bar can change from year to year just ever so slightly, and most of it's a change in threads more than anything, but they can be different, so that's something to pay attention to. My Jeep's a 93, the axle's an 89, and so there are some things I had to use from the 89, and there's some things I could get away with the 93. It was quite the rigmarole to figure it all out. One thing that will give you some difficulty is the track bar. The track bar, this bar here with the loop-de-loop, goes into here. Now this mounting point changes from some years to some years. It's a little bit different, it's a little bit more inboard, a little bit bigger, whatever. So I had to kind of make this one fit. This is a 93 style and an 89 axle. I had to do a little bit of grinding and stuff in here to kind of make it work. You can make it work. It's easier to just line up the year axle with the year parts that you're buying. Reason being, the actual mounting points of all of this stuff does not change at all. So it's easier to work with your axle than with your truck in this case. The sway bar ends and sway bar are the same. 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive. You can interchange all that stuff. So that's essentially all there is to know about the front axle. A few little things you might find different than what you're expecting. For example, this axle was an ABS axle, so it came off of like a limited. And this truck doesn't have ABS. Not a big thing. You just take the sensors out, leave it be. It's totally fine. And then other things, some of these axles have the little vacuum pod right here. I recommend avoiding those. Just get a later axle. Not a big thing. Now, everything that I say in this video is stock Cherokee parts, except for one section where I will explain where we went aftermarket. But for the most part, stock Cherokee parts. So if you start talking about working with JKs, like Dana 44s and stuff like that, this video is not going to help you a lot. But this is for factory Jeep parts, pulling them out of a junkyard, refreshing them, throwing on your 2-wheel drive truck. Okay, so the aftermarket section I was talking about. Now I have my drive shaft pulled out of this one because I have a new one sitting over there that we're going to put in. This is the aftermarket section that I recommend doing. Now this is the mount that is connected to your 4x4 selector on the inside. That's another piece you will need to grab from the junkyard. You need to actually grab the lever, the little window that goes under it. Everything else up there is the same, but that's what you'll need. So grab that, you'll bolt that in up top, and then you'll have this loose thing right here. The way Jeep does this from the factory is with the Z-bar setup, which works but isn't that great. I recommend doing this upgrade even on a factory 4x4. Sorry for the shaky hands there. So I recommend doing this upgrade anyway. This is a no-vac unit. It's cable driven, so there are some adjustments that you'll need to do when you install it. But other than that, it's a pretty easy install. The only thing that I found trouble with is the actual mounting hardware they use was like this rubber grommet thing that's supposed to crush and hold this to the body of the Jeep, and it didn't really work good, so I just put regular hardware on it. The reason why this is better to go aftermarket and is crucial is your 2-wheel drive Jeep will not have the box here to connect the Z-bar to, which means your shifter will be all over the place and you'll never be able to get it into 4-wheel drive. So this piece is kind of crucial for that because it solves missing the box and it makes for a much slicker 4-wheel drive selection. Okay, so once you have all those parts, the last couple things you'll need, obviously the rear drive shaft length has changed. You'll need a new one of those, and you'll need your front drive shaft and maybe some hardware or whatever, some odds and ends. And when you get in there, who knows what you'll find. Maybe you'll change the shocks or the bump stops like I did, or you'll change the brake lines or whatever the case may be. But that's kind of like the real basic down and dirty of how to do it. Jeeps are really like Legos. If you have the parts, it pretty much bolts on. It really isn't anything that super difficult. Even all the wiring for the transmission, so your speed control, your 4-wheel drive, lights, all that stuff, if you have the actual wiring loom with the transmission, you just plug it in and it works. If not, you can just unpin it and get new pins and put in the wires and do it yourself, and it'll work just fine. That's pretty easily fixed. Now in this case, this transmission was a 94, truck's 93. I had to do some finagling with like the speedometer and make it kind of work, because I guess there was a changeover from those 2 years. And if you're getting a lot of parts that aren't the same year, you might run into some of those little tiny problems. But for the most part, these things are pretty interchangeable. It's a pretty easy job to do. Pulling the transmission, that's probably the hardest part of the job, and it's just hard because it's heavy and it's a pain in the butt, but you can do it. Pull it out, put your new one in, put in your axles, and that's all there is to it. That's the down and dirty, guys. That's the down and dirty of how to do this transmission swap. Now I'm going to do some more work on this thing. If you guys want to stay tuned, those of you who came here for the down and dirty, you're more than welcome to. And for my regular viewers, well, this section's for you. Okay, so now that the drive shaft is installed, this thing's officially been converted to four-wheel drive, 100%. One last thing we're going to do is check to make sure that everything works. I have one last thing to do. We're going to replace the shifter boot surround, which has been broken since I bought it. Let's go get the new one. Okay, so in my little box here, I ordered off of eBay a new bezel that holds the shifter boot, and it also came with a new shifter boot, but we're not going to install the new boot, just keep that one on there. This shifter is essentially seized on there. It doesn't want to come off. I had problems with it trying to get it off when I swapped transmissions, and I ended up just changing the whole shifter. This angle is probably going to be terrible for you guys. Let's see if I can fix that. Okay. Now I know it's super dark in here, and it is hard to see. But down there, I'm going to reach down and grab it. Is the chunks of old shifter bezel. That's that a square? Okay, we got it all. Okay, now it looks like it might just clip in. Okay, let me get it out of the package. Okay, so we have our little plastic piece, the new one. It slips onto the boot, okay? So we're gonna continue to slip it on there. I'm gonna leave you guys up here, and we're going to install it. It just kind of wraps around. There's a lip there. Oh, wow, okay. I'm a fool, very foolish. I'm foolish. Okay, so first of all, slip it over the shifter. Don't be a very silly person. Then you slip it on there. There's a big side and a little side. And you'll see when it's all said and done what I'm talking about. Big side, little side. I know it's dark in here. I'm sorry, it's getting towards the end of the night. Not that it would be easy to film interior of this thing anyway. Okay, so now you just have these little clippies. And it should just clip in there. Right? There it goes, kind of. Okay, what am I missing here? Well, the plastic's pretty beat up. That's probably most of the problem. Oopsie. This is probably how the last one broke. Okay, so the back one's a little less secure. There it goes. Ta-da! So, as you can see, now it's clipped in there. And I say big side, if you can see the difference in height. This side's raised higher than this side. And that's how it's supposed to be. So, now that we have our Jeep on the ground, and it's a few days later, we can actually take a look at it. Allow me to formally introduce you to my 1993 Jeep Cherokee Sport. Now, as we've already discussed in this video, obviously this one was two-wheel drive when I bought it. And the reason why I bought a two-wheel drive was I set out looking for one of these in a spec that I really liked. I really wanted red. Stick shift was a must, and a few other things. And it turns out that finding a really decent Cherokee is pretty hard. Now, when I picked this thing up, it was quite a bit nicer than it is now, but it was doing daily driving duty for some years. And now it's a little worse for wear, and it's ready to start its resurrection. So we did the two-wheel drive to four-wheel drive conversion. That was step one. Now, doing that, you know, took a fair amount of time, and this Jeep monopolized the lift for a while. But now that that's done, we can move on to things that you'll see a bigger visual change for, which for you guys, the viewers, is typically more fun. So let's get to know this thing a little bit. Well, it was built in May of '93. I was built in April of '93. That makes it to where me and this Jeep, don't mind the buzzer, are the same age. And for those of you who hate the Jeep door chime buzzer, I understand, but I don't hate it. I love it. I think it's just right for these vehicles. But anyway, I digress. Here's the interior. Hopefully the lighting's good. Let me check that for you. It's a little dark, but that's okay. So it's typical Cherokee in here. It does have the upgraded gauge package, obviously. It's not the really basic ones. You have your AX15 transmission, your new process 231 transfer case with the only 4x4 window switch I had in my parts bin, which is for a 242. I know they don't match. Other than that, it's got an aftermarket radio that I hate, and everything in here is pretty good. I need to get a hold of a extractor vacuum to really go after these seats, because they're a little dingy, they're a little worn out, and overall just needs a good clean in here. But unlike my Grand Cherokee, all the doors work. Look at that. Wow, what a luxury. And the back seats on my Cherokee actually lift up. And that might be the first time I've ever lifted that, actually. And everything in here is pretty good as far as the condition. The back seats are much cleaner than the fronts. All the door panels are in pretty good shape. I know there's one nick on that back door back there, and that was from me being in a hurry one day, getting boxes out of here. But, you know, I was evacuating a wildfire. I had an excuse. Another luxury that the Grand Cherokee, out there if you can see through the glare, is not capable of, yet anyway, opening the back hatch. Now back here's a little dirty because, like I said, this was my daily driver for some years. And obviously I've hauled a lot of dog food and groceries and those kinds of things in the back of this truck. So it's ready. It's ready for a clean. The actual body of the truck is fairly straight, and unfortunately, the really sad thing about all that is I bought this truck and it was even straighter, had less dings and stuff in it, but I lived in an apartment complex when I bought it, and people just don't care, and they door ding the hell out of this poor truck, and so it's got a few more dings. So getting a hold of a good PDR guy is on the list of things to do. Obviously it needs an alignment because we did the four-wheel drive conversion, but it kind of needed an alignment before, as you can tell by the tires. So it's been due for one of those for a long time. And I put a chrome grille in it. That's not sport package stock, but I like the way that they look. So I put that on there. The previous owner put on these pretty horrendous LEDs, fog lights, and I've been itching to get them off the truck, but I just didn't have the time or money to source the original ones for a long time. And now that I really have the time, effort, money, all that things to do that, it's just on the shopping list. And to be honest, as much as I hate them, I guess it looks better than not having anything on there at all. So, and the wiring in them it's not good. You know, a lot of people really shortcut wiring when they do these kinds of things. Now, if you've been watching my videos in sequence, you would think this is project number 3. When in reality, in my big list of projects, in which there are 4, it's project number 2. But it's number 1 on the list as far as things I want to get done, and it's number 1 in my heart, because it's the one that has done me the most work for my life. I moved pretty much everything I owned from my apartment to this house in the back of this Cherokee. So it's earned it. And that's pretty much the long and short of it. I'll show you the engine really quick. Okay, so small change in editing plans. I just reviewed some of the tape and I realized there's a few things I forgot. So we will get to the engine, I promise you, but I just wanted to address a few things wrong with it that anybody who's seen my channel or knows me personally would know that would upset me, but some of you guys don't know that, and I want to just go through those really quick. I don't want to give away a lot about what we're going to do with this on the channel because I want it to be a surprise, but at the same time, there's some pretty glaringly obvious things that I would want to change. First of all, I forgot to mention, this is a biggie. This truck's not supposed to have this overhead console. It was never made with it. Well, mine wasn't. It was an option, but mine didn't have it. It does have the soundbar package, which I don't know if this Jeep had from the factory. But as you can see, all the dome lights and stuff are pulled out of it. There's a reason for that. Like I said, it didn't have it from the factory, and I'm halfway of a stickler on those kinds of things. Here in my parts bin of Jeep things, back here is the overhead console that was in it. The reason why it's laying out is it actually just fell down on me when I was evacuating from the wildfire, and I literally just unplugged it and threw it in the back and then put it back here in the parts bin. I will not be reusing this. On my latest trip to the junkyard, I did manage to pull a new dome light, and I just realized that I need one for the back too. But that's fine, we can go grab those, they're really not that hard. And then we will have to either make a trip to the upholstery shop or try to fix this ourselves where we can get it to look halfway decent. But with that big of a hole cut right through the backing of the headliner, I don't think I personally can tackle that. That might be an upholstery shop kind of job. But we will get there when we get there. The next other thing, obviously, these wheels. Oh, why the previous owner took perfectly good 5 stars and had them powder coated is beyond me. I don't like them at all, never have, but they've been on this truck since I bought it, and for that reason, and the fact that they had good tires on it, I just kept rolling them like that. Now, as the keen viewer, as they might say, was probably noticed in the background of many of my shots is this pile of new 5 stars. When I say new, I mean junkyard. Perfectly good. We're gonna try to get those refinished and put back on the Jeep. One thing I do want to focus with on these rims, and is very important to me, is the details. Now, when you take a rim to get refinished, they can just refinish it and it will be fine. But what I really care about is this little section here where it's a dark gray on the inlays and in the Jeep logo, and the rest of it is the regular aluminum. I care very greatly that that is correct when I have them redone. So hopefully we find a good wheel refinishing shop here locally in SoCal that can handle that little project. Another obvious thing, well, I take that back. This one's less obvious unless you've been in this truck that I hate. If you take a look down here, and I'll show you some more examples in a moment, down here at that light, that's bright white. Why? The previous owner really liked LEDs. Right, and I mean really liked them. And when you turn on the lights in the background, which is going to be hard to see in the daylight, but they are also bright white, not proper. And let me close the door so the door chimer doesn't annoy you folks. Again, you can't really see it through the daylight of today, but the actual AC vents are all LED behind them. AC vents, AC selectors are all LED behind them. Now this particular part I like because it makes the blues look really icy blue, and so when you turn it on it looks kind of cool. But the stuff behind the gauge cluster is going to get changed, and obviously the ones down there, the courtesy lights, they're going to be changed. I do not like LEDs. I understand that they're far more efficient. I understand that they're brighter, but they're not proper for a truck that's 30 years old. And for that reason, we will be changing all but the ones behind the AC controls, because I do like the way those ones look. So let's keep going. The next glaringly obvious thing we're going to fix on this truck is the windows. Obviously the tint is purple, and that's not proper. It's also delaminating in certain spots, so there will need to be some fixes on that. And the windshield, now that pains me to have to change this windshield because it is an original Chrysler safety glass unit, but it's had this gnarly nick in it since I bought the truck. And I know Safe Light and all those companies can kind of try to fix these, but this one is all the way through, and I don't think they can fix that one. It's pretty rough. But other than that, that's essentially all I'm willing to tell you without giving away where we're going with this project. And I hope you guys enjoy the engine, which is coming up next. So here you have it, another 4-liter high output. This one, it's got 176,000 miles on it, same as the Comanche actually. It's got a little throttle body spacer on it the previous owner did. Whatever. Here's the wiring I was talking about for the fog lights, just haphazardly. Straight to power, because, you know, no danger there. Other than that, it's a pretty stock motor. It's never been opened up. There's not much to say about this one, actually. It's your run-of-the-mill 4-liter high output. It's got an R12 AC system that doesn't work. That's going to be a mission we're going to tackle on this channel. We're going to figure out what we're going to do with that. And that's pretty much it. Thanks for viewing this video, and stay tuned for more work on this project, the Grand Cherokee, the Comanche, and in future videos, the F100.